a dream bigger than herself, bigger than the world that she was born into, a dream to heal and to feed and to gather. From the seeds of that dream, Imãn Benét grew into a force. She had a vision to nourish and bring people home to themselves. Imãn Benét blossomed, and she was destined to restore and renew. A food revolutionist, an entrepreneur, an artist, and she believed in the power of food, of community, and to heal and transform, to build a world where all of us belong, especially in a world that often forgets the beauty in the slowness of stories passed down from our recipes of a shared meal. She reaches back, she unearths lost histories, reclaims beautiful ancestral traditions, and I am honored to welcome her to Sacred Truth today.
Oh my God. Can I just have that recording and have it play every morning just to get me up out of bed? That was amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, girl. Thank you so much for being here. You are such a visionary. I feel like there's so many moments in our lives where we sit down at the table and it's not just to eat, but it's really to surrender and to heal and to remember who we are. What was the first turning point for you when you really realized that food became a revelation for you and you knew that community would heal and transport us into a new world?
What a powerful question. Yeah, first and foremost, thank you so much for all the kind words and for being able to kind of reflect back to me this incredible journey that I've been on. It was kind of a happy accident. I didn't necessarily know that I was going to end up on this path. It just kind of happened out of necessity. When I was young, in my teenagehood, I felt really out of place in the world. I'm mixed. My mom is Irish and Native American, and my dad is black, so I show up as a biracial woman, triracial. And I was living in kind of a one or the other, black or white kind of world. There's that Kanye quote, too black for the white kids, too white for the black. And that was like kind of my experience growing up. And that plus a sort of like Molotov cocktail of like a lot of other toxic environments and toxic foods that I was eating and toxic people we were around, just because it was also just that time in the world. I just was really lost at like 16, and it all kind of came to a peak where I was really depressed and really anxious and really just not in alignment with my body or in alignment with the truth of who I was or what I was here to do. And I just felt like I didn't have a place in the world. And through a series of synchronistic events, I ended up leaving home early. At 17 years old, I left and kind of had to chart my own path forward and figure out what kind of person I wanted to be. Like, I had to just absolutely remove myself from these toxic environments and decide again what kind of life I wanted to live and what kind of world I wanted to create for myself and what kind of person I wanted to be. And when you have to change everything like that, I was like, damn, where do you even begin? Like, where do you start? And so I was like, well, what better place to start than with the food that I eat? You know, it is the very thing that is fueling my energy every day. It is the thing that I pour into myself that is like becoming me. And so if I can like hone in on the fundamental parts of what it means to be a human being in that way and just really only let quality in here, then I think I would in turn live a life of quality, or at least more so than I was before. And it just was this click of like, oh, what I eat has a relationship to how I feel and how I'm able to move through the world. And then I went on this whole journey of like changing what I ate, and I went pescatarian, and then I went vegetarian, and then I went vegan, and I started experimenting with recipes online. And I was like, wow, this is like really creative, and food essentially became my art and this way that I was able to pour into myself and show myself that I was worthy of care and learn how to take care of myself and take control of my life again and my own energy and take responsibility for my energy in the world. And I don't know, it just became this really beautiful journey. And through sharing that storytelling online and just being super honest and vulnerable, it kind of metastasized or manifested into this really beautiful opportunity that I had to travel to Peru during the pandemic and write my story. And my story was deeply about how I healed myself through food. And all my followers are like, drop a cookbook, release the cookbook. And I was like, I guess I am writing a cookbook. And so while I got my sort of gestation in storytelling, like through the writing, I was like, oh yeah, food is a huge part of my story. And so it ended up being a cookbook called Alive Again, The Gift of Eating Well, the story of how I brought myself back to life again through food. And came to LA to publish it in 2021, and I've been here ever since, kind of building community and teaching other people how to heal in their own right through whatever sort of vehicle they find. But food is one of my favorites.
That is so powerful. And I know you've shared that story online. You just had $300 in your pocket. You were at a crossroads and you said, and you followed your intuition. And I admire that so much because I feel like through your art, through your storytelling, what you post online, you've built a life on intuition. Like that calling was just so loud, you couldn't not hear it anymore. And I love how you said, it's about the quality of what we put in our body and the energy and how we are making sure we are intentional with how we're showing up. Can we just talk for a minute about that radical divine act of surrender of you just saying, I'm not going to control and fixate over anything anymore. I'm going to surrender and I'm going to go to Peru.
Yeah, it was pretty insane at the time. Like, it was like I had no sort of example of anyone who had ever done that before. It wasn't like in the norm. We were literally in lockdown. Like, everyone was telling you not to travel, not to do that, not to follow your intuition, be afraid. And I was like, I'm just not going out like that. I'm a bit of an extremist, and so sometimes I tend to kind of jump in headfirst into things. And so I don't know. We all kind of assumed that the world was gonna end, and I was like, I'm not gonna go out like this in my hometown. Like, I'm gonna figure out how to like see the world and tell my story, and at least just like enjoy the rest of the time that I have here, if it is all gonna end eventually. And I happened to be reading a book at the time called The Celestine Prophecy, which absolutely changed my life. If you've read it, it's a deeply magical book. It's similar to like The Alchemist. It's an adventure parable about this guy who learns to follow these insights, he calls them, or these breadcrumbs from the universe that essentially leads him to figuring out the meaning of what it means to be alive, what it means to be a conscious human being on the planet at this time. And I remember reading it in kind of my second dark night of the soul of my life and being like, holy fucking shit, like, excuse my language, but being like, oh my gosh, I absolutely need to do the same. Like, I think I'll find so much truth on the other side of listening to that small, quiet voice within me that is leading me to something greater. I know that there's something more here. And when I tune in and trust it, even though it feels irrational, even though it feels crazy, I think I will be led to somewhere more beautiful than I could ever imagine. And it was true. I was. And it has led me onto this really beautiful journey and path of now teaching other people how to follow those insights, follow their intuition, and trust that small, quiet, still voice within them. And the more that you tune in, this is a pro tip, the more that you tune into that voice, the louder it gets and the stronger it gets and the more in alignment and in harmony your life becomes. And it just becomes like, at a certain point, I was like, it doesn't make sense for me not to listen to this voice anymore. Like, I absolutely have to just follow this guidance because I know that is how Spirit is speaking to me. And I don't know. It's proven itself so many times in my life at this point. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm following your lead, Spirit. There's just no other option.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I was terrified at first to start my own business and become an entrepreneur and honor my artistry, but that calling just got louder and louder and I could not follow it. And through your journey, I've also, you know, I've found that reflection that we can alchemize our struggle and turn it into our strength through resilience and the beautiful path of self-discovery. And I think we all know there is no blueprint, there is no roadmap to this life, especially when we're trying to navigate in a world that is constantly trying to strip women of their humanity in such a capitalist society. I'm curious to ask you, what would you say to the young black women out there still trying to fight to write their own stories?
Oh, the chills. Wow. First and foremost, trust your gut. Especially Black women, we have this opportunity and this connection to Spirit in a way that is beyond anything anyone else has. It is deeply spiritual. We come directly from the source. And I think we have been, by design, trained out of trusting our intuition, trusting our gut, trained out of our deeply spiritual practices, because it serves a bottom line of a certain set of corporations in the Western world. And I think that is the greatest shame that we have to reconcile in our lifetimes. We have to learn how to trust ourselves again, and we have to be able to tune in to the truth of who we are. For me, that's my intuition. That's where God speaks to me. It exists somewhere in between my heart and my gut. There's like this, like, I don't know, when I tune in, when I'm in meditation and when I'm in my spiritual practice, that is where I tune in to listen. And I've always been guided exactly to where I'm supposed to be. And it's never been an external voice or an external formula or somebody's like path that they've been on before that like has led me to where I need to be. It's always been that small, quiet, still voice inside. And so I would say do whatever you need to do to clear out that channel. For me, clearing out my gut was a real opportunity in being able to like hear clearly that voice. You know, she wasn't clogged down or bogged down, or like, you know, there wasn't anything in the way of me being able to tune into that wisdom. And the more I started doing the physical work of, clearing out my gut and eating well and eating clean, and taking care of my body, the more I was able to trust myself is, you know, is what I think that really is. And to know and to trust subconsciously that like, oh, Imãn is taking care of me, you know, like I'm taken care of here. So I can trust any small, still voice that comes from within Imãn, you know, or from within me. And I think there's something to that. I don't know, there's some sort of psychology to that. Like taking those small steps to take care of yourself and doing what you need to do to fill up your cup, I think will lead you exactly down the path that you're supposed to be on. And you can trust that.
Yeah, I love that you said that because having a clear and clean vessel is your way to hear, to being a clear channel to hearing spirit and source is so powerful. I've learned that too through fasting and cleansing and stuff.
Me too.
And yeah, and I'm so glad that you launched Food for Thought, your Substack chronicling your journey. It just feels so intimate and personal. Like I feel like it's conversations across kitchen tables, like when we're all gathering and it's this ancient knowledge that flows because like you said, like as we learn to trust ourselves we can hear our intuition louder, and that's just such a powerful radical act these days. And somehow as like I read your words it just feels like, you know, these stories kind of belong to all of us. Like I see you and me, I see me and you. It's just this beautiful mirror. How do you navigate that sacred space between your own raw truth and the collective hunger of what we're all really hungry for? You know, like how do you transform these stories into mirrors where we're all just seeing reflections of our own?
I don't think I try to do that at all. I think it just is an inherent truth. I think we all are reflections of one thing, of the source. You know, I see reality, and bear with me here. I kind of see reality in a very specific way, similar to like a disco ball. A disco ball is just a collection of little mirrors reflecting light in different ways, but all on one orb, one shape, one physical thing. But each of us are like that little piece of mirror reflecting light in our different ways. And it's like when we get out of our own way, you know, and we start, you know, we wipe our sort of filters clean, then we are just able to just shine and reflect in our fullest power. And I think that it's just our natural truth. So we just have to do everything in our power to get out of our own way and to continue to shine. And I think the more that we just are the truth of who we are, whatever your truth is, whether it's you're telling stories authentically and honestly through a podcast or through a food blog or through Instagram stories or through just walking in the grocery store and like engaging with the people in your actual tangible community in a real way. And like, that is impact, that is honest, and that is authentic to you. And the more that you continue to do that, the more I think you will continue to attract those experiences and be able to reflect back that truth in a really honest and integrous way.
And through that, we are just, like you said, being able to really cultivate community no matter where we are, online or in person.
Exactly.
I think we're also living in a time where isolation is the norm, especially after COVID, where capitalism again has just stripped us away of so many simple, sacred rituals and the acts of coming together. And yet, with ritual dinners, you've created something so beautiful, so simple that curates belonging, a remembering of who we are and the power in that. And especially like I said, when society is just thriving on this disconnection, what does it mean to reclaim community? What have these gatherings revealed to you? And what is it like being able to witness others coming back to the simple, beautiful act of communing together?
Oh, chills, goosebumps about this whole conversation. Ritual dinners came to me while I was still in Peru for the first time. Like, it was just like I saw the word written as it's written on our branding just so clearly in my mind, and was like, oh, this is the missing piece in my community back in the States that I think we're all sort of missing pretty deliberately. And what is ritual? It is a series of deliberate and intentional events that essentially bring you closer in connection to something, either spirit, yourself, your community, the land, whatever it may be. And I was like, that's the thing that we're missing in our capitalistic world. Because it is this just commodified society, this way of being. It's transactional, it's not in alignment with nature and the spirit of who we are. And anyway, so yeah, Ritual Dinner started as this really beautiful opportunity to connect people back to the truth of who we are, which is deeply spiritual, feeling, empathetic creatures, you know what I mean? Who just need to remember our truth, who have been disempowered for so long and just needed kind of a little reminder. And for me, the one way that I have been able to most connect back with the truth of who I am was through food. And so I was like, what better way to kind of inspire that within my community than by bringing people together around a table? I've witnessed so many beautiful conversations and interactions and relationships being formed around a table, around sharing a meal with one another. There's something really vulnerable and really just beyond words that happens, that opens up at a table together, that I've just always been super inspired by. My grandmother was an incredible cook. My mom was an incredible cook too. And they were big in the restaurant scene and in terms of like investing in restaurants and stuff like that. And so I witnessed so many beautiful conversations happening at the kitchen table growing up. And I was like, oh, there's something here. There's something like really beautiful here. And yeah, fast forward post-pandemic, I come back to LA and I'm like, having come from this deeply spiritual, communal, indigenous place like Cusco, Peru, like Sacred Valley of Peru, which is just embedded in this sense of community for ages, for thousands of years, right? It's something that America will never be able to grasp because we're so new and we're so rooted in the antithesis of what that is. And so anyway, coming back, Ritual Dinners started as this opportunity to gather people around a table for a farm-to-table meal. We try to make it as least pretentious as possible. So we invite the farmer to the table. We want you guys to know and be connected back to who is growing your food. Because I genuinely believe that the farmers are the heroes of our society and they don't get nearly enough credit or honor or compensation even, to do the work that they're doing to keep us all alive. And so I really wanted to honor them and lift them up and put them on a pedestal and be like, look, this person is keeping you alive. And I've worked in the food justice sort of agriculture space for a minute, especially being a chef for as long as I was. And I've just always been mostly inspired by the farmers, the people who have the audacity to grow things and bring them to life and to nourish other people, even though they're not celebrated in the way that they deserve or supported in the way that they deserve. And I'm just so curious as to why someone would do that. And so I've always just, wanted to support them with everything I have in me. And so Ritual Dinners started as this opportunity to exonerate them and to just amplify them and their impact and their message at the same time that we are connecting back with our bodies, right? Because when we clear out our channel, clear out our vessel, we are more equipped to be able to like help and nourish and support other people. That's the people around us at the table. And when we're connected and able to support other people around us, we're then able to pour more intentionally back into the earth, right? And it becomes this reciprocal relationship again that I think we've been missing. And I really do believe it all starts at the table. And so it's grown in this really beautiful way. It's become this pop-up series that we do every season, summer, winter, spring, fall, every year for the last 3 years, and ongoing, we hope. And it has traveled the world. We've been to Mexico City for Dia de los Muertos. We've been to Peru back in 2022. We've been, we did our whole full series in LA. We went back to the Bay Area, which is where me and my partner are from. And we just continue to grow and travel with it and go where we're invited and kind of share this message. And hopefully people will be able to replicate it in their own worlds with their own communities, because it's not ours. We're not claiming it as ours. We want to share it, and we want you guys to copy and paste it in your own ways, because this is how healing happens, through community.
That is so beautiful. Being able to have the farmer there too, to give thanks
Mm-hmm.
to the hands that were in the soil on a daily basis. I love that. I
So
love being able to.
necessary.
It's so necessary to pay homage to Mother Earth and to the person who has brought this to feed you.
Right.
That is so beautiful. I love that. Resistance is the process of putting our instincts into action.
Mm.
And we know systems of oppression are out to get us. We saw it in the face of George Floyd. We saw a father, a brother, a uncle, a nephew. We saw it in his cry for his mother. We've seen terror before. This is not something new. It's something that they want us to be comfortable with,
Mm.
and knowing that they think they have power over us. And we've seen it in the decimation of Palestine and mothers and children, the bombings of hospitals and schools. And I think these are all connected because it opens our eyes to our collective humanity.
Mm.
Again, those mirrors, we see our moms and our dads and our brothers and our sisters and these beautiful people, and me and you in this moment too. Like, we get to have such a beautiful, honest, and raw conversation. And I want to talk about resistance. What does resistance look like in this moment, as we imagine, as we think, as we seek a new world and a new global awakening?
I really appreciate that insight, and that reflection, because it is all true. And yet I really struggle with using the word resistance in my reality, because how I envision the energetics of resistance is kind of like swimming upstream, fighting up against something that is unnatural, as opposed to surrendering, right, which is this kind of flowing with. I will say, what's unnatural, what is resistant, is the way society has been formed and shaped and is motivated to continue moving thus far. So that's the unnatural thing. And so when we can kind of tune out of that and just absolutely let it go, absolutely just stop holding ourselves to the standards of which our forefathers or our administration, current or past, or even our parental sort of philosophies that have been kind of like bestowed upon us that aren't necessarily in harmony with the truth of who we are. Once we can start kind of unraveling from that and letting go of those things, and those things that are no longer in alignment with the truth of who we are as human beings, as spiritual beings here having a human experience, the easier it will be. I'm a big believer in the path of least resistance, like, how do we tune into the truth of who we are? And for me, once I was able to kind of, again, clear out my container, clear out my vessel and my filter, and be able to tune into the truth of who I was, listen to that quiet, still, small voice within me, which is where I believe God speaks to me. Whatever language you use for God, it could be the universe, it could be source, whatever. I was able to tune into a whole new way of being, which is a lot of surrender, is a lot of letting go, is a lot of just being for the sake of being. Not for the sake of producing, not for the sake of fighting the good fight or being on the front lines of the protests, or, like, that's an important role in the revolution. Emphasis on the evolution part of revolution. But I don't think it's the only role. I think also a part of that evolution looks like being fully and wholeheartedly in our joy, being wholeheartedly in our rest when we feel called to rest, not producing for the sake of keeping this machine going and adding to the GDP. And, like it's not natural. And so when we can tune back into the natural state of being, I think we'll be way better off. And I think we will absolutely excel quicker towards our evolution in a way that is beyond what we could have ever imagined. I think the universe, I think the planet will start to become in right relationship with itself, and we'll start to become in right relationship with itself when we can just tune back into it. When we can stop trying to extract only from it, when we can stop trying to only extract from ourselves. I don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunity in letting go of the dying paradigm, letting go of the things that are no longer working societally and personally and relationally. And, that we are absolutely walking into a whole new world. Like, we see it around us. We see it cosmically with these sort of like astrology, shifts. We see it societally with the sort of unrest that we're seeing globally across cultures. We see it in our personal lives. I know so many of us feel like just like on the precipice of this huge shift, and I think the longer that we resist that shift, the more suffering we're going to experience. When we can absolutely just let go and let God let go and just kind of allow ourselves to like sink back into the harmony of the truth of who we are, and be in joy and dance and gather and eat good food and plant growing things and just be in harmony with life again, the better off we'll be, and the faster we'll be able to access that evolution.
Yeah. How do you think some who might be hearing this for the first time, like letting go, letting God, whatever God means to them, how do you think we turn our deepest intuitions into our liberations?
Powerful question. The When I visualize it, when I close my eyes and I think about the energetics of letting go, I think of it as floating in the ocean. If you've ever done that, it's kind of scary. It's like once you get past the break, the tide break, it's like, holy shit, this is a really powerful conscious being, the ocean, right? And it's like, and you're being moved by it, and it takes a lot of trust and a lot of surrender and a lot of affirming your own safety. And I think that is what is going to be required for this next season moving forward. And I think the more that we can strengthen that muscle of trust and surrender, the better and the easier it will be to continue to trust our own internal voice, for sure.
As we grow, we often distance ourselves from that raw, unfiltered parts of who we used to be, thinking that we have to outgrow the old in order to move forward, which is true. But when it comes to community and healing and wellness, I wonder that if the younger version of ourselves, the one that is still full of unrecognized strength and belief in the power of connection, knew something that we're still trying to figure out as adults. Because I think our inner child is just so powerful and whole before the world told us what we can be and what we can't do and all these things. And if you could sit with the younger version of yourself right now, the girl who believed and knew in the power of healing and community and the evolution of this new shift that we're walking into, what wisdom and vision does she have that you are just so proud to carry forward as the woman who has dedicated her life to all of it?
Man, I love that question. And I love that I just took a moment to kind of bring her to the forefront of this conversation so she could answer this. She was just fully unapologetic and in her power, just absolutely creative fire, fully instinctual, fully would just like run and play and wanted to love unapologetically and wanted to create anything and everything all of the time. And the more that I've been able to connect with her and to kind of get out of her way and to allow her to create through me, and to just protect her, right? To make sure that she's safe and to make sure that I'm setting boundaries and being discerning so that she can feel safe enough to create and just be at the forefront and play and be the truth of who she is, and not limit her and not stifle her. Man, the more successful I've been, just the more authentic and honest I've been able to be, which is success to me. Like, the more value I've been able to share with others because I'm just showing up as the truth of who I am. And I think in certain African spirituality, they believe that the child and the grandparent should have like the closest relationship, because both of them the child is coming fresh from the spirit world and the grandparent is about to head back. And so they believe that there's wisdom to be shared between the two. And so that relationship is supposed to be very sacred. All that to say, I do believe that children are deeply wise and deeply in tune with just raw truth, because they are fresh from that spirit world, and the older they get trained and trained out of that. And so it becomes our work as adults to remember, to tune back into that frequency, to bring your inner child to the forefront of your experience and to do that work with them, to heal those wounds and to be present with them, because they have all of the wisdom. They came in with clear awareness of what their mission was here, why they were deciding to come into the human realm, to add value in whatever way. And if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling unclear, tune back into that inner child, sit with that, do an inner child meditation. I have a couple that I'm releasing soon on my YouTube, and I work really closely with inner child work with my clients that I'm doing some consulting work with, and it's been really powerful to see what happens when you can make that connection again. And no matter however you get there, however you choose to build that relationship back with the truth of who you are. I have a client who does like crafting. She has puts it in her schedule. She'll do a crafting hour in her day every other day to just just draw or just paint or just make little beaded things, and I'm like, wow, that's a really beautiful way of just being playful again, and just putting it in your work day, it just absolutely puts you in a whole other frame of mind, where you don't have to produce and do and manifest and manipulate. It's you can just be. And I think there's real power that comes from that. And I would be really curious to know just, all of the wisdom that you're able to receive when you tune into that voice.
Yes. Imãn Benét, your fire, your grace, your story of surrender and intuition is beyond inspiring. I'm so grateful to have held space with you in this conversation and our inner child and questioning and curious and seeking. And I'm so grateful to be walking next to you in this evolution of this beautiful life journey and God's path for all of us. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so beautiful to be in community with you and to witness the magic that you are creating by sharing your story and your voice and giving other people a platform to do so. I think this is the revolution, and I'm honored to be a part of it with you.